Why? Why are people so good? Like, why are some people so good? Like,
Got it made, yeah. Things been going my way. Hope the feeling don't fade.
gosh, there's so much nice stuff on Pinterest. Like, makes me sometimes think I need to give up all of this effort of trying to actually create illustrations. Like, why? You got so many guys that are so good out there. Like, what the hell is the point of me existing? Why? I finally got a little bit of time to actually create YouTube tutorials. You know, sometimes, so to begin with, the first thing we want to try, I want to actually break down some lights. I found this amazing bit of inspiration online on Pinterest, which really caught my eye. And it's this amazing look of lights swirling around. It kind of looks like there could be like some, I don't know, some special fairy that's just like, whoa, whoa. And I just thought that effect is really, really cool. And imagine if you can use that effect and create other stuff, you know? But then the first thing I wanted to go over was like, okay, how can you actually create that sort of effect in Illustrator? How can you create a glowing light sort of look? So I know we can create this stuff in Photoshop, and don't get me wrong, I am a big fan of Photoshop. In fact, I started most of my art journey once I left drawing on actual paper and moved into digital art and used Photoshop. So you can create these effects really easily in Photoshop if you are very familiar with the tools and techniques and, you know, blah, 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 blah. But I want to actually create this in Illustrator. And why? Because Illustrator is one of my most favorite. No, it's just one amazing bit of software, and I really wanted to create this sort of effect while still being able to have that, you know, that beautiful Illustrator. You can always edit and change things, like move the actual paths and move things around, and just, you know, use the same sort of effect that you just created and stuff and move it around and create something new. And that's what I wanted. Whereas with Photoshop, you're kind of limited. Once you draw it, it's there set in pixels. Yes, you can use other tools to smudge things around, but it's not the same as Illustrator. It doesn't work the same with the paths, and it's pretty cool. So that is our challenge now, is to actually go through and recreate this sort of look. Okay, so the very first thing we want to do is to create a nice sized document. I'm just going to put it for 2,500 by 2,500 pixels. Okay, so now I'm going to create, and there we go. Okay, so now we've got this sort of, this is our reference. So I'm going to put this reference onto the page just so we've got it there, okay? So I'm not going to create exactly what they've created here. We're just going to try and recreate some of the elements that this artist has used in some of these, okay? So let's start by just creating a nice background on here. Okay. So there we go. I'm going to use a black background. So I'm going to use Control and 2 to lock that layer. So if you don't know about this particular little hack, yeah, I think you should start using it. So it's Control plus 2. You can also use, I don't know what it's on a Mac. What is Control on the Mac? I'm going to have to Google this. The things I do for love. Is it for love? Yeah, it's for love. Okay. Let's put that there. Okay, let's search. What am I searching? What is CTR on a Mac? Sorry guys, I absolutely hate Mac. I used to use it in uni and I just don't like it. I love Windows. I love it. Okay, Control key. What the hell's that? Like, is that even a name? What the hell? It's just a symbol. Okay, this symbol, guys, That weird whatever symbol. Yes, you use that whenever I say control, you use that symbol. Sorry, Mac users, but yeah, sorry, man. PC guy. Okay, yeah, use that symbol. And then let's see what Alt is. You probably already know what Alt is. What is Alt? Is that Option? Yeah. So every time I say every time I say Alt, it's Option for you guys, Mac guys. Okay. Right. There we go. Okay. Never mind. Once that's covered. Okay. So you use Control and 2 to lock your layers. Okay. So you can also use Control Alt 2 to unlock all your layers. Okay. That's a handy tip, and I think you should start using these shortcuts if you don't use them now. So Control 2, lock that layer, and let's get started. So as you can see, we're going to create the same sort of effect. So I want to use this effect that we see at the bottom here, this round. That looks really cool. So I'm going to start in the center, and I'm just going to use a circle, pull it out, and then turn off the fill, and let's just concentrate on the actual stroke. So I'm going to put on the stroke. Let's expand that a bit. Okay, and then I'm going to, as you can see, I'm going to actually change the stroke to this part here in the corner, and I'm going to bring this up even bigger. Let's really get this right out. Okay, so now the reason why I like using this setting here is to apply the gradient across the stroke is because we can actually move these pieces in and out. So for example, so this is how I normally work. So as you can see, I've just grabbed an actual handle there, which is set at 0% zero opacity. I moved it to this side. So now what we get is this nice sort of fade along the stroke. Okay. So I'm going to expand that out, and let's just adjust this circle so it looks a bit closer to what we can see in our reference. So I'm just going to do something like this, okay? And then next, I'm also going to lower the opacity of this to, let's say, about 70%, okay? Just to keep things, you know, in line. Right. Next, I want to make sure these colors are nice. So I would also go on over and use the Adobe color themes. So if you're not actually already using Adobe color themes, I would highly suggest actually using them, because you can get some really cool color combinations if you're ever stuck for color combinations. So I'm actually going to search lights. Let me see what comes up with light. Oh, it's coming up with actual just light. Right, okay, so let's try and say neon then. That is a good search. Somebody must have created some colors for neons. Okay, we got a few more neons here. Cool, but what we're particularly looking for is, I want to go for a bit more. I think this is a cool one, okay? Yes, let's use this, okay? So I'm going to add this to my swatches, and that appears over here, okay? So I can just close that off now. And then I'm simply going to grab and drop these in. So I'm going to choose the pink for that part and just use a darker sort of purple, pink, whatever, magenta you'd call it, and place that there, okay? Let's expand our stroke even larger just so we can see what's happening. Okay, now we've got like a nice, really cool ring of light here. So next thing to do to just to make sure that this looks a bit more cool, we're going to add a few profiles here. Okay, so one thing, we can use something like this. I'm going to actually use something like that for now. Okay, nope, that doesn't look so good. You can create your own custom versions of this if you like. Okay, so I'm going to choose, I think I'm just going to use that one. Okay, so that's fine, right? Next thing I'm going to do is use Alt and drag, or what is it, Option on a Mac, and then I'm going to go to Stylize. Actually, no, we're going to go to Blur and use a Gaussian Blur, right? Let's just blur this out a bit, quite a bit actually, something like this. Okay, and then I'm going to drop that right back on top. Okay, so now we can see we're starting to get a little something that's happening. So I'm even going to duplicate another duplicate there, and I'm actually going to put another Gaussian blur, and this one is just going to be a bit less. And then I'm going to go okay, and then actually probably remove the profile completely. Let's just turn that off. Okay, and I'm going to whack that on top. And then I'm going to use the transparency settings, and you can just scroll through your wheel to see what looks really good here. I'm going to go with something just so it just blends in a bit more and it just adds some visual interest, but something light over the top of our original layer that we had. So, okay, I think the best one we found so far is something like, not exclusion, difference. There we go, something like a hard light. But even then, that might be a bit too much. So what we're just going to do is lower the opacity slightly, and then we get that cool effect, right? And then I'm going to add that on top. It just adds a bit more of a glow. Okay, so I'm going to separate these one more time. Bring this to the front by using this shortcut, which is on your screen now. And then I'm going to add these here. So we just have a bit more of a sharpness in the middle, and then a bit more of the fade. Okay, cool. So we can also now go in onto this main layer, and then we can use the width tool to just adjust these if we want to make certain parts a bit thinner or thicker. So I'm going to just try and, expand a few parts here and there. Okay. So that looks pretty cool already. So let's go through, and then I'm just going to duplicate a few more of these. Okay. Oh, and I've just noticed something. As you can see, our blur, it gets cut off here. So to stop that, we want to go into Effect, Document Raster Settings. Select that, and then we just want to bump this number up to, I'm going to put like 120. Right, the annoying thing is the bounding box gets massive, but at least it sorts out that problem, okay? Right, so I'm gonna pull these out for a minute, okay? So these are all our different layers. So I'm just gonna go through and change these colors, okay? So I'm going to use some of these blues. I'm going to just drag them onto like so. And I'm gonna do the same for these. Feel free to use your own colors and combinations for this, and you can always mix these up as you see fit. And so in fact I'm going to go and change that. Okay, why won't you allow me? There we go. I'll give it blue, and let's put the black on the other side. Okay, and there we go. And we'll whack these on, and that starts to bring our extra lights in here. Okay, so I can just duplicate some of these, pull them out a bit more. I think this bottom one, I want to actually get another one in there. And let's also bring another one up here. Okay, right. So that looks pretty cool. I'm going to go into my layers panel now just to see what's going on here. And as you can see, you can't actually see anything. So I'm just going to check which ones are which. I know I've been doing them as 3. There we go. These are the ones I wanted to keep separate. So I'm going to select and drag these up. Okay, that didn't work. There we go. If you drag the little blue marker here and drag it onto your layer, you can separate those out so it goes onto its own layer. And to be honest, it's good to label these as well. So I'm going to say blue lights. I'm going to actually change those colors because I think that color looks a bit dull. So appearance, gradient, and let's just give this something else. Let's boost this. So if I hold shift on one of these handles, I can actually scale everything up together, and it just gives you a different sort of brightness. But I'm also going to change it anyway, so don't listen to me. Okay, awesome. Okay, so in my layers, I'm going to go and turn off everything back on. Lovely, lovely. Okay, that looks pretty good. Ooh, we got some nice rings here. Okay. Okay, So I'm also going to change some of the colors on this just to give a bit more visual interest. I'm going to put something like that. And then in fact here, I'm going to switch things up and bring something completely new and bring a bit of yellow in. I just want to create something a bit different. And I'm going to actually turn up the opacity of that and just see how that looks. It's okay. I suppose something a bit more orangey might work a bit better. Okay, something like that. And then we can also just expand this a bit more. Oops. I just wanted to get some different sort of color effect going on. Okay. So next we've got this cool sort of feeling. I'm just going to delete that, guys. It looks a bit weird to me. But there you go. That's already starting to look pretty good. Okay, it's not ready at this sort of level, but we can do certain techniques to get it a little bit closer. So I'm going to select one of these, and hopefully that's the sharp version, and it is. So I'm going to press Ctrl Z to keep it there. And then I'm going to go Ctrl C, Ctrl F, and that will paste it right on top. And then all we're going to do here is we're actually going to drag some white onto these. Okay, now watch what I do here. Okay, so I'm actually going to change that to something like this. Okay, go to stroke. Let's lower that opacity down. I like that profile still. I'm going to press the C key for cut, and we're going to cut these right here. So what we've done is we've separated that. Okay, there we go. We've gone and separated that particular white piece there. So if you see what I've done, I'm holding down Control and then I'm selecting to, and you can keep selecting and it will just start selecting objects below objects, okay? So I've selected that, and what I want to do is change this to something like this. Okay, turn down the stroke. Okay, and then I'm going to go into Effect, and then I'm also going to add a Gaussian Blur onto this. Okay, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, and then I want to also change the transparency so that it just gives off something a bit more vibrant. So it actually looks like it's a bit of energy. It's a bit of a glow going on. Okay. So it's whatever looks good. Okay, so I'm going to use a hard light, and there you go. You've got something happening there that looks pretty good. I'm going to do the same. Control C, Control F to paste in place. Change the colors once again to white. I'm going to use C, and then this time I'm going to cut somewhere here, and then I'm going to cut here maybe, and then I'm going to press Delete. And then delete again to remove that because I only want this particular piece here, okay? So that looks pretty cool. Let's see if I'll keep it to this sort of setting at the moment. And then on the stroke, I will put something like so. As you can see, I'm just messing about first to see what looks best. And you can go through and create your own profiles, but for this video, we're not going to. We're just going to use this standard templates that we've got. Okay, so I'm going to lower the size, take the transparency, bring that down a bit more. Make sure this is set to something like not color burn, not lighter, and screen. Overlays normally can be good. I think something like a hard light, that's okay. Right, and then also we're going to add a Gaussian blur on that, just so that it's not so sharp. And for this one, we're going to put it like a bit lower. Okay, something like 3.4. There we go. Now we're starting to get a few elements. So you can go through and do this as much as you want, or you can actually use the pen tool if you wanted to make certain parts brighter, like so. For example, I'm just going to create that path there. On my stroke, as you can see, there's only one. Let's just increase that. Make sure that's setting to something. I can even use it to that setting. For example, I'm going to change the profile to that. And oops. And then I'm also going to add a Gaussian blur. Okay. Let's see how that looks. Okay. Awesome. Now this is the cool thing about Illustrator, which is not so good in Photoshop, sorry, is I can go through and still change these things. Whereas Photoshop, you just kind of have to draw it in. But as you can see, it's just the same thing here. This is where your artistic ability is now going to come in handy. Okay. So I'm just going through and using same sort of techniques. Effect, Gaussian blur. And if you're using the latest Illustrator, you'll notice that it's a lot faster for creating Gaussian stuff like Gaussian blur, which is awesome. So I've just changed up the profiles. Okay, so we're starting to get to something that's pretty nice. I'm going to just do some duplicates here, because these are all still the same shapes, and I just want to bring things about just to make certain parts a bit more brighter, like so. As you can see, we're getting that nice sort of look that we're going for, where the light leaks. It's like sort of looks like it's whizzing around, but there's so much more we can do to make this look better. So I'm using the same techniques there, where I'm cutting it and I'm just changing the colors to blue, and then I'm just dragging on some whites, for example, and these are just going to be for the odd points at the background where you want just a bit more light and energy to pass through. So let's lower that down. For this one, I think we should just go for something straight like that. Okay, I'm going to hit the transparency back up a bit. So it's a matter of playing around. In fact, I'm going to push this transparency really high, not too high, and then allow the blend mode to bring that further in. So let's just lower this a bit. Transparency, blend mode, let's go to... Sorry if you hear the alarm outside or the bloody planes flying around. Okay, as you can see, it's starting to build up. Okay, so this is pretty cool. I'm gonna fast forward some of these just to make it look a bit better for you, so you guys are not sat here forever. Okay. Stroke. Boom. Lovely. Okay. This is coming out good. Okay, so I'm going to lower these down, some of these. And there's something that I don't like. What's that? Okay, that's because it's not straight onto the actual path. There we go. And it's a bit too sharp. So Control Z to make sure it's on. I'm going to drop that down a bit. And in my appearance, I'm going to make sure we've got a Gaussian blur. Just slight again. We just want to break off so it's not so sharp. There we go. Boom. Okay. Now we're getting something a bit closer to this. Okay, so there's still more that we can do to push this even further. So I'm going to show you just one little technique here. If we want to put, like, as you can see, this has got like some sort of HUD display elements. If you look in here, it's used some actual shapes that seem to be going around. That just makes it look a bit better. So let me do this by increasing this stroke here. Okay, and for this, I'm questioning whether I should even use a gradient. So I think I'm going to turn this off, like so. So it's a nice flat piece. Okay, then I'm going to go to Edit, Object, where is it? Expand. I'm going to expand that object. Now, there we go. Now, once again, I'm going to make a duplicate, add a Gaussian blur. You can use a feather if you want, but I'm going to use a big Gaussian blur this time, just to effect the glow. something like so. And that's going to go there. And I'm going to use the shortcut that you can see on screen, which is the Control and open brackets. Is it called open brackets? I don't even know. But yes, you use that. Okay. And there we go. Now we've got this nice sort of light. Let's move this in transparency. Let's see if we can find a nice sort of setting that will just make everything look really good. So I'm going to use a hard light and I'm going to lower the opacity slightly. Okay. Okay. Now that's still too bright if you ask me. I'm sure you will agree. So trying to see what we can actually do for this. It's all about solving problems, guys. So that's still too bright. So I'm actually going to group that. And then I'm going to add another blending mode on top. That's the cool thing about Illustrator and grouping things to, you know, try and add new blend modes and stuff. Ooh, overlay looks pretty cool. But not right now. That also looks pretty cool, but not right now again. Hard light just seems to look a bit better than all the others. Okay, I'm just going to use hard light. Okay. It's still too bright. It's just demanding, it's taking too much. Even though we do want it bright, but not so bright. Anyway, there you have it. Okay, so I might just create some other simple shapes here. And then try and do the same with this. We'll duplicate, effect, Gaussian blur. It should have the same settings as before. We'll use that. We'll bring this to the front by pressing the shortcut shown on the screen. Whack that in the middle. Group that. And then we're going to add that to a hard light. And then also lower the opacity slightly. And we have another sort of effect there. Now, I might not like it. You can always delete things if it doesn't look right, but we just experimenting and we're just trying to get something sort of close to this. But yeah, anyway, let's see. I might take that off. But anyway, next step, right. So we want to start adding a few more of these little light bits that we've got here. Okay, just to make these little bits stand out a bit more. So I'm just going to use the pen tool again and then just go over and trying to replicate these sort of lines and add some nice shines to it. So increase the stroke. This is quite a long video. Effect, Gaussian blur. Okay, and then we're also going to go copy, Control-Shift-V, and then we're going to go to Effect, Gaussian. Oh, now I'm putting two Gaussian blurs, so I'm going to go to Appearance, and then just use the Gaussian blur that we've already got. And I'm just going to whack that a bit higher, nice and high like that. Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to send that behind the other layer. There we go, and then I can just lower the size of this. Okay, so now we've created some sort of like peak, you know, for this few highlights. So once again, we can go through and recreate these as and where we feel. So I'm just going to go quickly and bash some of these out, just based on where I think it should be. Okay, great. Okay, so I've just flipped that because I want to put this maybe at the back here on this other blue sort of thing. And then I'm also going to change the overall size. Oop. There we go. If your thing ever turns off like mine just did, I couldn't get the controls, just use Control, Alt, and B, and that will bring back your transform controls. So really quickly, saves you having to Google it. Lower that opacity a bit. Okay, I think these are still a bit too demanding and too bright, so I think I'm going to actually remove those. But I'm going to take those, group those so that they go onto their own little layer, and then I can turn that off if I don't like them. But for now, I'll keep it in maybe. Okay, right. Okay, so next we want to make this look really nice. So we can just keep adding to this and make it look better and better and better. But what we can do now is the effect, that reason why these look so good is the actual ground that that he's created, and it makes it look like it's hovering over this sort of, of this ground here. So now, if I'd be 100% honest, growing up and doing artwork, I never was the type of person to draw from reference. Actually, in fact, I kind of hated it. Actually, I'm so sorry to some of the guys I used to draw with. I used to give them such a hard time. I used to actually really take the piss. I was like, yeah, dude, nice picture, but did you use reference? And when they actually did use reference, then I'd be like, oh, shit, no respect, bro. I do not respect you. So, there's positives and negatives of that. And the positives were that, it kind of forced myself to get used to drawing from the mind and seeing pictures and seeing your vision of what you want to create onto the page. Then you're simply tracing it. It's a cool technique. Some people don't know what I'm talking about, but for those very few who are lucky enough to be at that level, where you kind of see it in your brain and you can transpose it onto your canvas, and then you simply just tracing. So you're not even drawing anymore. You're just tracing what your head has already calculated for you. This is a powerful thing that I gained. But now that I've moved on into life, and it's all about speed, and getting really high quality work out on time, and you're not sat there forever racking your brain, it's good to use reference. So I'm going to be using reference for this, just so we can keep things nice, quick, and fast. Nice, quick, and fast. Is that even a sentence? Nice, quick, and fast. Okay, so now that we've added the second bit of glow, here's where the magic comes into play. Okay, let's change that glow. Instead of just being a orangey purple thing, let's put it into a blue. Okay, something like this. And then we're going to hold Control and use open bracket. We'll put it to the back, like so. Then we want to make sure we change the blending mode to something like lighten. Let's just see if we got it. Hard light's pretty good, but I think I liked lighten. It looks pretty cool. Okay, so let's just lower the opacity a bit, and then same for the one on top, because now we've got two. Well, let's just lower that opacity as well. And there we go. Now we're getting a bit more of that light sort of effect that we can see in our reference. Okay. Now what I also like to do here is to actually duplicate again, right? Now this time we want to change this to white. So we just get a bit more of a, you know, a nice bright highlight. So I'm going to make that smaller because we only want that to be on a particular point. And this is still too bright, as you can see. What I'm also going to do is just expand this a bit more. Okay, is it not going to let me do it? Okay, there we go. There we go. That's a bit better. It might give a sharp edge, which I don't want, but we can always feather this later. So we've expanded that, and then we're going to turn down the opacity, and let's see if we can find a nice blending mode that's going to bring this and just make it look like it pops a bit more. Okay, hard light just seems to be working the most for this. Actually, I'm going to pull that back in here. There we go, something like this. We only want a small thing, you know. Very small. At the moment, that's still too bright and still too demanding. So I'm going to add a Gaussian blur on it. Okay, that's not too much. Also not too little. Something like so. Something like that. That looks good. And actually, I'm going to squash that a bit more. Okay, maybe that squashed it too much. And then we're going to make that smaller as well. It's either like bouncing too big or too small. Anyway, it's a matter of messing around with this. It's still too, we need it more squashed to get that illusion. But come on. There we go. Better. Boom. Now we're getting closer. Okay. So let's just rearrange this so it looks somewhere in the middle. Awesome. I mean, that looks pretty cool. What I can do is expand this blue background a bit more and also lower the opacity a bit more so we get this sort of effect. And then we can bring out the pinks and also lower that just a bit. Actually, let's see if we can put a blend mode to just make things just blend a bit better. Okay. Actually, I'm just going to leave it as normal. There we go. Awesome. Now, as you can see, it's starting to come together. I'm still not too sure about this and whether that's actually needed. Okay. But as you can see, we're starting to get, and it's not exactly, but we've got our own little thing going on here. I still don't like this. So question is maybe just to take that off. I'm taking that off. We'll attack those little elements later on another day. But so far, so good. Okay. And as you can see, it's starting to come together. Now, you can feel free to come through and now create like your own sort of, you know, if you want to make like what we've got here, we've got some sort of like lines that lead in and lead out. Okay. So you can go through and create that if you wish. So I'm just going to show you, for example. Okay, we're going to create our own one here. And we're going to make it just like sort of blend in. Okay, something like so. Brilliant. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn that off and then go to this. Use our eyedropper tool. If you hold shift, you can start selecting. Oh my God, it's just taken just the one color. I think that's changed. Okay, I'm just going to hold normal shift and then select the different colors here. And there we've selected a blue. Now we can use different sort of things to get different effects. You can actually use that, for example, and now the artistic side comes, because once we've got the basics set up, man, we can just start to really play with these. So I used to, on my first trial, I brought in a few of these and I added Gaussian blur, and it just creates like a nice sort of effect, swoosh effect sort of thing. You know, I can go through and just really ramp up some of these colors and just add these cool ambiance, is ambiance the thing. But yeah, and these will just make it just look a bit more awesome. Okay. Now you don't have to have these. Okay, these are up to you. Add as little or as much as you want. In fact, I'm going to reflect this. There we go. Ooh, ooh. Oh, yeah, adding a bit of that. That's giving it a bit more of a lovely. It's all coming together now. This is how it's meant to be, okay? In fact, this one, let's change the stroke. I want that to be a lot smaller. Come on, let's go small. Thinner, 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 thinner. Let's put it to something like 40. I can't bother waiting. Boom, there we go. Beautiful, okay. And then let's just change this up, okay? So our shape's just a bit weird and a bit more irregular. I don't think we want it just to be totally... Okay, that's starting to look really, really effective, if you ask me. Lovely. Look at... Oh, man. Lovely. Okay. So this is what I was meaning. I know, like, when I started off and it's like we're going through it, it didn't really, you know, it looked a bit off. You don't know where we're going with this. But as you can see, with all artwork, it's one of those that you add the elements to it and you keep adding elements, okay? And that's what brings your picture together. So, you know, don't always judge your picture when you're like halfway through it. Like, seriously, there's little things you can do to... You know, when you start bringing things together, oh man, it makes all the difference, okay? So let's just bring that down. Oh, lovely. I still don't like this. This is still annoying me. I want it there, but I don't know which way. What I can do as well is add another anchor point in, and then I'm just gonna take a bend because I want to create some sort of change in direction as well. Looks okay. Might be a bit too drastic. By the way, if you want to see what I'm doing here, and I hope people actually use these sort of combinations, is I'm holding down, with my pen tool, I'm holding down Control, and this quickly goes to your direct selection tool. And this is, you know, it's such a fast way of working rather than actually changing your actual tool each and every time, okay? Ooh, I like it, but I don't like it, okay? I'm still trying to get this optimum feeling and flow, which is quite hard. Okay, that looks a bit better. Oh, Lord, what should I do? This is taking too long. How is this 40-minute sketch? Okay, cool. I'm going to leave it something like that for now. Okay, now to bring this up a bit more, we can add a lot more things to make it look cool. Okay, so I'm going to use the same techniques that we used here, and I'm going to create like some sparkles, okay? So let's create something like this, put it onto this sort of uniform, and then I'm also going to make sure it's set to like this, okay? Let's turn down that size a bit. Beautiful. Okay, now make the colors white for this. You can keep them as these bright pinks and stuff if you wanted, by the way. I'm just going to use a white one, for example, for now, okay? And these are going to be our sort of twinkles and sparkles and light rays or whatever you want to call them, okay? Like that. And then I'm also going to add a circle. Hold down Shift. I'm just going to drag that over. Bam, 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 bam. Like so, like so. Let's blow that out a bit more. Transparency. Turn it down, and then let's move this back 2 frames. Deselect. So we just got these selected, and the effect, add a Gaussian blur again. We want this stuff to blend in. We don't like it to, there we go, something like that. Right? And then I'm going to go Control, Copy, Shift, Paste. So I've just pasted the same, and all I'm going to do now is to take off that Gaussian blur a bit. Okay? because what we want is the sharp version. We want the inner side to be sharper than the outside. You can work the other way too, by the way. I've done this a really weird way. But there we go. We've got something pretty nice. Let's turn this to something a bit more lighter. Something like that. Okay. And then I'm going to group this, and we can come in and edit this later if we need to. Now, we can now go and drag these bad boys over on top of our artwork. Oops. And now we can start placing these in and around. In fact, I'm going to create a new layer, guys. And then I'm just going to drag this element onto its own layer. So we, oops. And then I might as well lock this layer. What? Lock this layer then. There we go. Right, so I can start messing around with this. And I don't like it being so straight. So I'm going to turn that at an angle. Something like that. There we go. Okay, so let's put some of these where it's most bright, for example. Okay, and then I'm going to change the size of these. So we have some small ones. Now, there's other things you can do where we can make these, you can actually spray these on using the symbol effect, the symbol sprayer. Actually, I'm going to show you that, okay? So if I'm happy with this and the way this works, I can turn this into a symbol. Okay, I'm going to click that on. I'm actually going to go to Object. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it, guys? I think you have to create, right, okay. New window, symbols, there we go. Click on the symbols panel, select that, make sure your whatever you want to be a symbol is selected. Create new symbol, let's call this sparkle. Now, as I say, you could obviously still edit this so that that sparkle looks a lot better, because right now it doesn't look very good. Okay, you know I could actually put a lot more work into that to make it look a lot better. I've just been a bit lazy lately. Okay, so I'm going to use that there, and I'm going to go to this this symbol sprayer tool. Okay, make sure we're on a new layer. Select it so we highlight it, and now we can spray these in. Okay. Now just spray a few, have a few, like, and be conscious about, like, you know, how it all works. Now, this is where the fun stuff happens. If you click and hold onto the symbol sprayer tool, we have different options here. So what I want to do is this symbol sizer tool first. Let's select that. I know if you press Alt, is it Alt? How do I change the size of this? Oops. Okay. Now we can just drag over these, and I want to change the size of this. Damn it, let's make this to 800, for example. That's better. Okay, there we go. Ooh, whoops, that's taking it too big. Control Z that, okay. So now it's just a matter of going in and just expanding some of these. And as you can see, what this tool does is it just expands and contracts certain parts of your symbols. So if I just click and drag, it will expand them. But now if I hold Alt, it should contract them. So always make them bigger first, the parts that you want bigger, and then go in and start pressing Alt to make the other parts smaller. And then you can start, as you can see, it slows down your computer quite a bit. So I'd highly suggest saving first. Actually, I forgot to save. Save! Okay. Oh, we don't want to save it on McDonald's. That's our client. I'm sure they wouldn't be so happy with that. Okay, I'm just going to save it on the desktop. Okay, I'm going to call it the light effect. You can call it whatever you want, okay? And there you have it, okay? So I'm just gonna keep using this spray tool to, you know, change things up. And then if you click it again, you can actually choose the symbol screeners tool. Now, this should start like lowering the opacity. Oops. That's quite strong, that, isn't it? Okay, let's double click this and see if we can change the intensity to, let's say, let's do it to about 4. I'm going to single click. Let's see if it just totally removes it or if it lowers the opacity. Because we just want some parts to be lower opacity than others. That's it. Oh, there we go. This is what we wanted. There we go. Okay. Woohoo. There we go. Okay, I think I want to leave that here. There's so much more you can go into to start, you know, to really push the boundaries of these. So feel free to go through and use the effects that we've shown here today to make things just look a lot better for you, okay? But the concepts are there. The main concepts that we wanted to cover are these. So be creative and see what you can create. The last thing I want to create, you know, obviously, because we don't want to always just copy exactly what we see. So what we want to do as well, I'm going to change this Gaussian blur as well to just a bit more. Not too much. Something like that. Okay, so it blends a bit more. Okay, what we also want to do is I also duplicate some of these and then I'm going to expand them really big. Okay. Boom, like this. And all we're trying to do is just to get some slight bit of like ether effect. You see, like that. We just focus on the center part, okay? And then I'm also going to do it for the blue. We want a bit of blue in there. So you can draw out these shapes if you want. I'm just going to use what we have on the screen. And I'm just going to move this around so we can create some sort of like that feeling of there being like this sort of dust or... But we only want it to be light. We don't really want to bombard the whole picture and take control of it. So something very, very light. I might even change the opacity of these to lower it, but it's just to take it away from just black. You see, okay, something like that is pretty good in the corner. Light. I might even put one more and just have it tippling in, maybe near this. There we go. Lovely. Look at that. I might even put one more as well. Okay. Just put, oops, Control C that one. We'll move that there just like that. Boom. That might be too much. Okay, that's too much, I think. In fact, I'm going to remove that one. It's actually annoying me. Beautiful. Better. Done. Let's lower the opacity of this one now. Okay, just so it's a light. Okay, so I'm going to create a new layer. Select this, and this is a cool clip-in mask sort of that I learned before. I'm just going to put it as black for now, and then we're going to go to layer, make. So you can make a layer, a clipping mask. So I'm going to make that. So make clipping mask. Boom. Now what I need to do is I'm just going to press Control Alt 2. That's going to unlock everything. Okay. And then I'm going to lock the top layer, and then I'm just going to select all of this. And then I'm going to drag all of that onto. Why is it not working? Control copy, then. Oh, that's why. It's because it was locked. You stupid idiot. Oops. Okay. I'm just going to hold shift and select to the sides here to select everything. It's the only other way. And I'm going to drag that in there. Did that work? Why is it not working? Okay. This is not good. Okay. Control copy. Let's go into this. Turn all these off. Control shift V. What? Okay. I think I just crashed Illustrator. Let's give it a moment. It's probably because I had all those symbols with Gaussian blurs, and I think within the groups they also had like blending modes. So it's obviously trying to remember everything. Oh, there we go. Boom. And then it's clipped all of that out. And there we have it, guys. We've got a really cool effect. So I hope you like this video. I hope you like our little the bit of work that we created here. In actual fact, I'm kind of wishing that I actually made this to full screen, like 1924 by 1080, but I can actually go through and change that if I wanted to. Let's double click that and just change that to 1920 by 1080 and go okay. Ooh, that's made it really small. No. Okay. There we go. Just expand that out. I think it looks much better. There we go. Okay guys, but there you have it. So we've managed to replicate and create something quite similar. Obviously you can go and spend more time to really neaten up this artwork, but I think we've got a pretty good result there. Oh my god, I can't believe I almost missed this key point out to make everything just that much better. And that is actually adding shadows and darks to this picture. Let me show you this. I can't believe I almost forgot it and actually started ending the video. Let me show you this. Pay attention. Okay. I'm going to create a new layer. Okay. In this new layer, we are actually going to start putting some shadows. The shadows are very important for this. Okay. I did this in my trial and wow, you know, you get some really amazing looks. Okay. So I'm going to move this new layer down. So just isolate what we've got, okay? Brilliant. Make sure I'm on this same layer that we want to edit on. Okay, so I want to add a bit of shadow in here, okay? So I'm going to just use my pen tool and come through and just start selecting through to create some shadow effects, okay? Let's just draw this out slightly, like so. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to add a lot of Gaussian blur on this as well. So make sure we put a gradient on it. Gradient. And I'm going to go for black on both sides. And then turn one to 0 and turn the other to, like, let's say 40%. And then using this, let's just go and draw this in. Okay. There we go. Now, as you can see, this is already starting to add a bit of dimension. I'm going to just lock these blue layers, okay? Let's add a few more bits. I'm going to add another one here. I'm just going to put it to here, maybe. Let's just go to here. Once again, these don't have to be perfect. All we wanted to do is just to add some dark spots that will just help shape our light and how our light sits. Okay, I might even add another one here. Now these aren't exact, okay? Obviously you can spend more time as you wish, but what we just want to create is that overall effect. Okay, something like that, okay? And then with this selected, I'm going to just put a Gaussian blur on this. Okay, something like that, okay? And then make sure we set that to multiply. And boom. It's meant to be very subtle, okay? It's not meant to be something really strong. We can go in there and change your gradients if you want to like really bring this out a bit more, okay? But there you have it. You can use this to sculpt your picture. And that is our finished piece. So I hope you've learned a few techniques today, and as you can see, it's all about the thought process and, you know, what sort of tools you've got and how we can actually replicate this. So there we go. I've learned something new with as far as lights go and how lights work. You can go through and clean this up a lot more, but hopefully you gained some techniques and some ideas, and I hope you enjoyed it. So in the next video, we're going to be delving a little deeper and trying to create something a bit more in the isometric design, showing you some of the tools and techniques that I use to create isometric. And then what we will do with these videos is we'll use some of the skills that we've covered today as far as light goes, and actually add that into, for example, our isometric design. So we're going to have isometric design with lights, neons, glows, and we're going to have them reflecting on the floor. Oh gosh, oh, it's going to be so good, so good. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.
Bitch, I got it made. Yeah, things been going my way. Hope the feeling don't fade. Yeah, stream money, anything. Ain't no telling why I live. Probably someone in the waves. Things been going my way. Yeah, hope the feeling don't fade. No, stream money, anything. Ain't no telling why.
I could have done it like this whole time. I was filming it like subpar. Now you can see my full head. Peace out, people.